Let's just do a quick round of introductions. We'll start on this thing.
Good morning, Catherine Robbins Halstead, public member, Sears Farm.
Beth Schiller, public member of Logan. Laura Graham, elementary director.
Cody Sapphire, Special Assistant Commissioner of the Alliance Program Step Back.
Tony Burley, public member from Brookline.
Matt Hunter, public member at Hampton.
Barbara Trautman, public member of Brunswick.
A small crowd here. Let's just go around the room. That was that.
It's Joe Anderson, staff, LMF.
Jason Goulet, LMF staff.
David Ediger, LMF staff.
Perjury.
Jay Bernier with me. Jeff Romano, Maple Surgery. Great. Thank you, everybody. Late, you want to introduce yourself? All right. So per diem forms, you all have your per diem forms. If you're a member, need to fill those out. I think overall, this agenda, straightforward. Staff has obviously a lot of time. Projects. Fairly smooth order. So I'm just going to move on to item number 2, which is the minutes. And before I open up to the table, I want to bring 3 points for attention. On page 1, Commissioner Beal was not present. Jody was here in her place. So that's corrected. Also on page L. On page 13, somebody decided to me thinks it would be nice to include the thanks expressed by myself and other people for Jim Norris, who we all know who retired from the board and stepped in, so it's just during this. So take those corrections.
Absolutely.
Is there anything else from
If my name could just be spelled correctly.
Oh,
Gosh. Oh, so sorry.
you will make that correction as well.
Therefore, we'll accept.
With the correction, you have a motion to accept the minutes. There's a second. A second by Catherine. Any objections to the motion? Any no objections, the motion passes. Thank you very much. Now we'll move right on to Laura to discuss both fund balances and project allocation status.
Thank you very much. Hi, everybody. Well, David, can you shut the participant screen real quick to see if that makes it any, yeah, there we go, it's a bit better. So this is the slide that shows bond fund balances adjacent to our element trust bond balances, what's not been spent, undisbursed balances. On the top, you'll see we're down to 0 in the 2009 bond. That's very exciting. We have the mere 8,500 left in the 2011 bond. All those funds are encumbered. All of them are encumbered. So that's all really have. And at the bottom, the little math exercise, interest earned through December 31st, you see it's a little over 1.8 million. You all voted last time to allocate 3 million, to make sure we have 3 million allocated to around 13. And so the estimate right now, everything's pretty kind of squishy, is to remove 775,000 in interest, that number from the earned interest, leaving us 1,062,000 give or take in interest left that is unallocated and still, of course, earning interest. None of this gets physically moved anywhere. It's all in the same trust fund account. These are all bookkeeping bits. Any questions about any of them? Exciting. Okay, next slide, please. And here, this though, what people really care about is seeing how much money is really left in unallocated funds. You need to see it. But on the left is how much money set aside, including set aside. So you see the 3 million around 13. That's all in, which means you have 2.6 million to spend on projects. That's as of this moment, obviously. Okay. Anyway. Next slide.
Wait.
Oh, sorry.
So of the 3 million, so the set asides, how much is set aside for stewardship?
It's the same, 5%, everything is 5%, so stewardship's 5%, access improvement grant is 5%. And then, I always get it, I'm not sure, it's 3% for legal and 2% for inventories, or the other way around, I can't remember. But that's that's how you get it. Now, our actual stewardship funding is a different calculation. But this is what we do because it's also like estimated, we put these on working waterfront too, even though they don't exist. Put on for working waterfront, so that we can be sure we have a buffer and ensure our match met across all the programs. Does this make sense?
It does, I just was thinking, if we max out with most of our projects at $25,000, and if I'm just gonna use 20 projects a year, but yes, I can do the math easily.
Right.
It's $500,000.
Yeah.
Now, that's probably on the high side.
Yes.
But I mean, do we have any idea at this point? Probably not, about what kind of
What
use
is the
that
actual is going to be like for the actual cost art? It is a great question. And I was thinking, I'm almost ready to start for the round 10 projects. We are not ready to close that round out to see the actuals yet. This is the challenge, that these expenses, but they trickle in over a fairly long period of time. And so I'm loath to reduce any of those numbers in reliance on what I have. But so far I don't feel the need to expand them either. Like we're okay for match right now. I think by next meeting, I will have probably more, it's as much my capacity to look at the round 10 numbers and start to use actuals for those. And then input it into that chart. Is that what you're?
Yeah, I'm just curious.
Yeah.
As we go forward, are we setting aside enough? Are we setting aside?
Exactly. And as I get well further down the road from like round 10, I can begin to get those numbers input. Right now, there's no reason for concern. It's just being-
Other questions on that?
Next, oh, good. And here we have how many active projects we have. And the allocations associated with each of those. So, you see, that's different from last board meeting, because some closed. Oh, and I left off anticipated closings, you'll see another slide with anticipated closings, that should have Packard's Landing as well. Anticipated closings at the bottom. Next slide, please. And yet another financial breakdown. This is what is taken right off the top. So our 30 million number is now 30,775,000. That generates new set asides. That's all there. You can see that the numbers all square. Reconcile. Which I wish they would do that right off that first time. Then it's inevitably I jiggled something on a spreadsheet. So that's really, I'm really happy when they reconcile. And any questions about that? Next slide. Okay, and here's the working farmland, which will be really important for your discussion today. As you can see, the funds available for projects are a little over 75,000. This says the running tally at the bottom of that fine print. It reminds you how much you have left in interest right now. And if they need another 137.5, Jason's going to go into this in more detail. What would be required to cover the set asides for that additional money? That's the collector's project. Questions about that? Okay, next slide. Here we have our project updates. So these are 3 projects here that close. It's tough to do project counts because we get these projects that, have one parcel closes and it's like fully a project, the senior planner, it's fully a thing. So we have Porter Hills, half of the Porter Hills. I should have said phase 2. Porter Hills phase 2. Sorry, Jason. Porter Hills phase 2 Moody Road parcel closed. Homestead Farm and Haystack Mountain closed. And Jason created that for us to see. Oh, sorry. And these are anticipated closings. Sea Meadow has been a perennial. It's going to close. It's going to close. It's really going to close. So Any questions about that? And this, because we did the right report, anyway, we have all of the projects was lined up, everything that closed in the 2024, from January 1st, 2023 through December 31st, 2024. Those are just representative photos, so it's not really on the map, but that's like all of them, all, I want to say 31 projects. And there's a list, I won't read it to you, next slide, please, there they all are. And it broke out, 17 in 2023 and 16 in 2024. Thank you, you guys. So, yeah. And next slide. There we go.
Okay. Bob?
Before we leave that, I think it was in the minutes that I was reading, and it had a short list of projects that we threw.
Yes.
Could you just, I think there were like 5 of them, Tondro Point,
Yes.
Woodlands, Kennebec.
Yes.
Just give me a sentence again on why those didn't go forward.
Absolutely, be happy to. I don't have that right in front of me. Tondro,
I know Tondro.
do you know Tondro? Do you want me to tell you why? Or do you want me to just skip right over
Yeah,
that?
go ahead.
Okay,
I don't think it's good history to remind
Tondro's
ourselves.
lease was heartbreaking. It was the week before closing, funds were already delivered to the escrow attorney, we were all set to go. And the landowner learned for the first time that we were gonna require hunting, fishing, and trapping as possible on the land. That was a heartbreaker, it was heartbreaking. And I want to give full props to Harpswell Land Trust. They did such a great job. We worked hard. We worked really hard to try to find a way to massage. Obviously, without violating our own precepts, we tried to find a way to help the landlord feel good. Avery Davis, our council, it was, you can be proud of us and you can be proud of Harpswell Heritage Land Trust, and be really proud of how they conducted themselves. They were just who you would want in a situation like that. That was Tondro, burned into my brain. There was a working waterfront, a small point. That one, there were so many, we discovered in the due diligence process that they were, I want to say 35. It was a homeowners association type situation. And there were no fewer than like 35 deeds out there with deeded rights to that wharf. And that was about 31 too many, for us. And there was, and we could not find a way with 3 lawyers working on it to massage that. It was just never gonna happen. So that was a small point.
Kennebec,
Kennebec, that was an administrative. That one just rolled into the Woodlands parcel simply rolled into Headwaters. And so that was totally, just fine with that. And there was another one. Fort O'Brien.
They try to stay with that. They try to support.
Yeah, they withdrew, I think, they withdrew even before being, should that be on that list? I think they were really early. I don't know anything about Fort O'Brien. We really never got our hands on it. Is there another one?
Jonesport? Is Jonesport? Is that small point?
Oh, Jonesport. Yes,
Yes,
Henry's Point. Yeah, thank you. Another working one, that one was held on for a really long time, yes. When they got an appraisal, when they got the appraiser on the property, it became clear that the land value was going to be so low that the trouble to go through to put on was not going to be worth it. They were already getting funding from other federal sources. They weren't worried about protecting it at this point. And so they respectfully withdrew. It took them a long time to really decide to withdraw, but they just decided like, nah, it's not worth the trouble really for, here's $50,000. That's exaggerating a little bit, but not by a lot. It's going to be a small value.
thank you. I just like to go back and just
Thank you.
remind myself.
Yeah, and I appreciate the work done every night. Some more stories you get to tell. Thank you, Mark.
Okay, let's move right along to projects to be active on, and the first one is Winslow Farm, and Jason, you're up.
All right, Winslow Farm, there it is. So Winslow Farm is a 76-acre farm in Cumberland County in Falmouth. small diversified farm serving Portland through local markets. And we just always let you know this, that the conservation easement that is on this will include an option to purchase an agricultural value, which we are still not cleared to put any funding into. So the appraisal breaks that out separately. So the values you're going to see exclude that, but it will be part of the finished project. So the AOC met on December 3rd. The appraisal reported a value of 1.2 million, which was accepted by the committee. And we have the first draft motion there for you.
To approve, excuse me, to approve the recommendation of the LMF Appraisal Oversight Committee and accept the appraiser's value of $1,200,000 for the project.
There's a committee motion, does not need a second. Is there any questions about? Not seeing any, but is there any objections to the motion? Seeing any objections, motion passes.
And public notice was advertised in the Press Herald on January 4th. No comments have been received. So we'll move on to the discussion of the award amount. As Laura mentioned, the initial estimated value on this was $750,000. So the preliminary award was $387,500. Based on the appraised value of $1,200,000, Maine Farmland Trust has asked that their award be increased to $600,000. So that's a $212,500 difference. That is wholeheartedly supported by the Bureau of Agriculture as the sponsoring agency. But as Laura mentioned, as you see, we only have $75,000 remaining in unallocated working farmland funds. So to cover the increased award, we would need to move a total of $158,125 to cover the award and set asides. And that would leave about $900,000 in that pool of unallocated interest. Yes. My guess would be that they just underestimated the value of developable land in Falmouth, but I think we do have somebody from Maine Farmland Trust here if you'd like to get any more insight on it. Yeah, okay. Chris, are you here?
I'm here. Yeah, I can hear you, Jason, but I didn't hear the question. If you could repeat that.
Question was just if you knew the reason for that the appraisal came in so much higher than the initial estimate.
Yeah, I think it's really just we were low on our estimate, and I think it really has to do with a couple of factors. One, a little bit of time from the time we submitted our LMF application to when we received the appraisal report. And also just the variability of real estate in the greater Portland area is hard to predict right now. We tried to get some information from the appraiser when we were coming up with our estimate. And he was really saying that there's such variability ranging from 7,000 an acre to 50,000 per acre in fee value. So such variability makes it really hard to predict easement value. So we did the best we could, but we were obviously pretty low in our estimate. But I do think it reflects, a reasonable value for this. It's an expensive easement, but justifiably so in an expensive town. So we're trying to get better in our estimates, but we're still always trying to keep up with real estate values.
Thanks, Brett.
Thank you, Chris. Questions for Jason?
Two more draft motions for you here then.
I move that we allocate $158,125 of earned interest for working farming projects
second for the motion. Second by that. Any questions about this? I just want to put out a quick statement from the chair. I think we really need to think about that pot of money, as far as interest, and how we want to spend that and how far we want to spend it down. That is a part of, I think this is very appropriate for use, but I think we need to be strategic about how we are going to plan around that. So just want to put that out there for you. Yeah. Is there any questions on the motion? Is there any opposition to the motion? No opposition, the motion passes.
I move that we confirm the allocation of $600,000 in a working family and funding to support the Winfield Farm acquisition, subject to standard conditions.
Okay, Roger, is there a second? Robert, just under the wire, has any questions around this motion? Is there any opposition to the motion? In no opposition, the motion passes. Great, thank you very much. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you. On to the next one. Porter Hills Phase 2 Norton Hill parcel. This is the second parcel in the Porter Hills Phase 2 project. The first parcel, the Moody Road parcel, got its award last fall and closed last month. This piece is 130 acres. It connects the Devil's Den and Blueberry Hill parcels that you can see there that were part of the Phase 1 project, and also gives the whole thing more road frontage on the Norton Hill Road, which is a public road through there. So the AOC met on December 3rd to discuss the appraisal and approved the value of $260,000 for the Norton Hill parcel. So the first draft motion is there.
I move we approve the recommendation of the element appraisal oversight committee and accept the appraisal value of $260,000 for the project parcel.
The motion does not need a second. Are there any questions on the motion or about the appraisal? Seeing none. Is there any opposition to the motion on the board? Seeing none, motion passes.
Right, and this public notice also went in the Press Herald on January 4th, and no comments were received. So the second draft motion is there for you.
I move we confirm the allocation of $100,000 in conservation and recreation funding to support the acquisition, subject to standard conditions.
By Robert, seconded by Roger. Any questions on the motion? Any questions? Is there any opposition to the motion? Seeing no opposition, the motion passes.
So when we have projects like this, sort of phase 1, phase 2, and maybe phase 3, is each of the projects individually eligible for the maintenance and stewardship, or is the one large project?
They are combined as one large project for that calculation.
So Fort Hill 1, Fort Hill 2.
For total for the two. Yes, and what we're doing with the process wise is they are right now they can apply for what they would be eligible for if the first parcel had already closed were the entirety of the parcel. If this one didn't close for whatever reason. So based on that value, they can apply for that right away because they have that land. And then when this one closes, we merge those and they can apply for the difference at that point, or they can wait and apply for it all at the end, whatever works for them. Porter Hills Phase 1, or okay, yes. Sorry.
Oh, no, that's what I was at. I just wanted to be totally separate. Maybe it's totally separate boards, even if they're conspicuous financially. Do you think that if they have a separate element project number, they are separate projects?
because they've gone through that process of being selected as a finalist, for, presenting the proposal, so you've had the chance to vote on it as a separate project at that point. Stuff. Who has Long Pond?
Me. How you doing, everybody? This is for the final award for Long Pond East Shore Preserve. I should say that we have Laura Rose Day, the Chief Conservation Special Initiative Officer, and Noah Pollock, Land Conservation Director from Seven Lakes Alliance here in person today. So if you have any questions, please, they're here to answer. This is the fee acquisition, protecting approximately 171 acres upland forest and 1,250 feet of undisturbed lake frontage. It's accessible by State Road 135 West Road. And also in their proposal, it serves as a stopping point along an emerging paddlers trail developed by Seven Lakes Alliance. And the LMF board selected as a finalist on May 16th, 2024. Appraisal Oversight Committee met on December 3rd, 2024 to discuss the appraisal. And appraisal $570,000 was accepted by the committee. And a draft motion is for you to consider.
To approve the recommendation of the LMF Appraisal Oversight Committee and accept the appraiser's value of $570,000.
Thank you. The motion does not need a second. Are there any questions on the motion? Seeing no questions, is there any opposition to the motion? Seeing no opposition, the motion passed.
Public notice for the Long Pond East Shore Preserve is advertised in the Kennebec Journal on January 4th, 2025, and no comments were received. Draft motion for the allocation of the final award is set to consider.
I will move to confirm the allocation of $278,481 and LMF Conservation Recreation Funding to support the acquisition, subject to standard conditions.
Roger, seconded by Barbara. Is there any question on the motion? Seeing none, is there any opposition? Seeing no opposition, the motion passes. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. It's, we really appreciate all of the work at every stage that's gone in to this project from folks in the state. And the more we look at the land, the more excited we are about what's there. So we hope everyone can see it something pretty nearby. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Barbara. Joe, you have a question?
Just a question about public notice in general. What is the length of time that is provided, given that it's what, the 14th right now? 10 days. 10 days is strictly
Yeah.
Okay. Great. Thank you, Joe. You're up again.
Yes, the second project for the board to consider is Witten Woods. And again, we have Jennifer Brockway, who's the executive director of Somerset Woods Trustees, in person here. If the board has any questions. This is fee acquisition by Somerset Woods Trustees, 455 acres, forest, wetland riparian habitat, deer wintering areas, a mile frontage on 2 public roads, and 2 miles of frontage along the Carabasset River, and part of the last 2 miles of the Northern Forest Canoe Carabasset River trip. The board selected this as a finalist on May 16th, 2024. December 3rd, 2024, the Appraisal Oversight Committee met to discuss the appraisal and accepted the value of $950,000. A draft motion is for the board to consider.
Barbara?
I move we approve the recommendation of the LMF Appraisal Oversight Committee and accept the appraiser's value of $950,000.
Thank you, Barbara. Committee motion does not need a second. Is there any questions around the motion? Questions or any objections to the motion? Seeing no objections, motion passes.
Public notice for the Witten Woods project was advertised in the Kennebec Journal, January 4th, 2025. No comments were received. Draft motion is for the board to consider.
Bob,
I move we confirm the allocation of $325,000 in LMF conservation and recreation funding to support the acquisition subject to standard conditions.
second. By Barbara, second by Roger. There are questions? Yeah, question.
I also have a question about public notice.
Okay.
Noticing that, for example, this was in the Kennebec Journal, which is quite far from the property.
Yeah.
How is that determined? And
I give you two steps later for this one. We try to find the distribution that would be closest to the property. That is what we tried to do most recently. So if this one's off, look at Jason for any kind of like soul string. We had a conversation about being very big. We used to always do just do the Portland Press Herald and come back for everything. And we thought, you know what, let's get it a little more targeted to actually try to find the daily that does this.
I'm trying to remember if there is a local paper in Skowhegan that has a big enough circulation. I think the issue is, I think the answer is no, and the Kennebec Journal is then the closest one that does have the circulation. Oh, could have been Waterville. Yeah.
That's what I was gonna ask. The Waterville Sentinel. Which is.
Julia made it.
I don't know if it's daily, but that's not even in our, we can add it, of course, but that's not even in our forms.
We might not be able to add it because they have to be able to run, they have to be daily, they have to be able to run, so no, on. Days a week. But I don't know if the one was something that, we can look into it.
Yeah, Waterville Sentinel used to be kind of the sister paper, to the Kennebec Journal, so.
Okay. Okay, we will, look into that one didn't on our radar at all.
and
Oh.
the statutory requirement.
Not really, that's a really good question, not really, just.
When was the last time you thought? That's I'm just curious
Oh,
about it. As effective.
Actually, yeah, and yeah, we get them, you can get them. Yeah. I'm trying to remember, we put it in our rules now. We're proposing a change to the statute that the departments, I should say, proposing a change to the statute that clarifies that public notice provision. To bring it into what we do now. The current provision harkens back to the day when the board was negotiating directly with landowners. It's the one that says you can't do that without letting the landowner know that you're gonna be negotiating, you have to give notice to the land, talking about their land, that is one of the, which is not how we do business at all.
Okay.
So. I know, just what you want, is decide.
I do have wonder if there's an electronic outlet that would actually reach more people.
Say again.
Some sort of electronic outlet that would actually reach more people.
We should say, it's posted up on the website, it's not, it's not like we hide it under, it's not the only place, it goes up on the website.
I don't believe actually the APA allows for that. It is still antiquated in the state as far as public notice through the Administrative Procedures Act, and it frustrates us all the time on rulemaking because we know we can reach more people electronically. But yet we still have to spend money and put in. Matter of fact, the last time we had a conversation with the resources people about this, the lobbyists for the newspaper showed up to say, hey.
I'm just thinking that the newspapers would not do it.
Their income,
Yeah.
their income, how they make money.
Or, you never consider doing a weekly that would reach a lot of people in the area in addition?
We can't, because of the 10-day, we can't time it that way. Our AOC meeting, they happen, it's pretty common that, like, that the minute our AOC meetings ends, Julia is like, get your notices out, we're getting them out, and we have some second.
I was thinking more in addition to,
In addition to.
like the Sugarloaf regulars that would be jumping around the wire bridge.
We're talking about $900. We're
Oh,
talking about,
okay.
yeah,
That's
we're
it.
talking cash.
Yeah.
So, because I was first like, hey, let's be sure to do all of them, because LMF is all across the state. Let's do, all some big ones all the time. And then I looked at the price and I was like, let's not do that. So,
Okay.
Follow-up question, so just
Justin, could you go back to just the last slide? Just double checking that the appraised value was like 950. And so then they're not asking for 50%. They're just asking for.
Correct. This is also gonna have MNRCP funding. Yes.
And we've been telling our applicants, with what you guys told us, that if you get a raise in your appraisal, don't come here looking for an increase, basically. And you could try, but it's the rarity, at least with respect to non-working lands. I think we treat working lands differently.
I should say also that they did have a restricted appraisal prior and signed a purchase and sale agreement for that price. And which was 875,000. So that brought that down significantly.
Any other call for the vote?
I,
Don't think
no,
I did.
you haven't, we haven't called for.
So just as a reminder, the motion is to confirm the allocation of $325,000 in CNR funding. We support the acquisition subject to standing conditions. Is there any opposition to the motion? Seeing no opposition, the motion passes. Great. And right along to water access. Access improvement grants, excuse me.
Yes, this is the first crack at our new access improvement grant process. We got one applicant that jumped on that immediately, and that was Ranger Lakes Heritage Trust asking for $25,000 for Kennebago headwaters. The funds will be used to replace a bridge over the Kennebago River and to make improvements to the parking area and some of the interior roads on the property, all of which will help the public get around there and an appropriate use of this fund. So we have a draft motion for you there.
Ranger Lakes Heritage Trust and Access Improvement Grant, the amount of $25,000 for the Kennebago Headwaters project.
Roger, seconded by Commissioner Russo. I do have a question. How are we tracking this and the expenditures for this funding? We received the application, right?
Yep.
We then see anything back to show that
Yes. So we
spent that much money.
we do the after the award is made by the board, then we issue a grant contract to the applicant for the amount. But then once they've done the work, they send us a final report and invoice, including copies of their invoices that they've paid.
Yeah.
And when we get that, we put it all in the file and write them their check.
Match, yes, it's having match. So I'm wondering, great thing that these grants are reimbursement or if it's a barrier to getting the work done because the organization doesn't have whether that's been given.
Last year, every single project that closed requested one of these grants and got their award. So it's certainly not a barrier to applying.
No, I don't
Yeah.
mean applying,
Okay.
I mean actually doing. Because they don't have, they may not, I'm speculating, they may not have the cash in hand.
Yeah,
to do the work.
Would we be able to pay out against an invoice? I haven't paid, you know what I mean?
There's a process that is sort of alluded to, but not really favored, that allows advances or partial payments. So I think we'd have to look at our. The thing we can't do though is we can't get out ahead of our match because we're required to have one-to-one match. So we don't want to get into a situation where, we're asked to return money.
We've sent the money.
Okay, we have a motion to award, the Great Lake Area Trust 25,000 improvements. Is there any additional questions on the motion? Opposition to the motion? Seeing none, motion passed.
But Spencer would know that I read the most.
Reflect that in a minute. All right, stewardship awards.
Stewardship awards. Finally, after only 3 or 4 years or however long it's been. So this goes back to 2021 when we received our statutory authorization to make stewardship awards, which are entirely new to us because they are not reimbursement. These are funds that are awarded to the cooperating entity and placed into a stewardship endowment. The board had previously adopted a policy on these, which was attached in the board packet. If I'll take questions on that, but I don't think we need to get back, revisit that unless if there are questions. We've been working with the AG's office and outside counsel on some language to implement that policy in our project agreements and service contracts. And we think we are finally ready to start with the board's approval, accepting requests and making awards. So the process would be everything that this goes back to round 10. So I don't know exactly how many projects there are, but it's not a small number. So everything that is already closed, we would say you can come in anytime until the end of 2025 and apply for your stewardship funds. And then kind of very similar to the access improvement grants, those would go on the agenda at the next board meeting, and the funds would be awarded by the board. No award exists until the board does that. What we're talking about today is just the authorizing people to request the money. Then active projects right now, it's going to be a very case by case. We're going to be as flexible as we possibly can in terms of, are you going to go ahead and close and then come back to the board until before the end of 2025 to request your money, or are you going to increase your award and receive the funds at closing? Going forward, we want it to be at closing, or immediately after closing, whenever possible, so that piece of the project is done. And again, these funds are separate from the access improvement funds. It's in addition to, so the project could get the access improvement funds to be spent for an immediate improvement to the property to enhance public access. This funding goes into a stewardship endowment and can be spent on any stewardship expense associated with the property. And projects can and hopefully will request both of those. Yes. I think it would be very similar to the number that you just saw for the biennial report. Certainly be in that ballpark. What we don't know is how many of those projects are going to request this funding. By statute, it has to be placed in an endowment and restricted for use on the funded property, which may be an administrative burden that some applicants aren't willing to take on for these awards. But so we'll see. We don't know yet what the level of interest will be, but we do know the funds are in there in the set aside. They've been set aside. The money is there, and we would I think that's it. The money is there, ready to be spent. So yeah, once that period is ended, they've either applied or not, then that would be when Laura would look at that money and return it to the pool if it remains.
They don't apply by then projects 10, rounds 10, 11, and 12 become ineligible.
Right. And then going forward, by the end of 2025, our goal is to be caught up on all the active projects. So everybody after that is getting it as part of their final award. And the process we want to have going forward is when you get one of these projects coming in for a final award, the motion is now, to allocate $250,000 to support the acquisition and 15,000 for stewardship. And then they just get that at closing.
And
Well, with the board's authorization, we will be sending out letters to all of those round 10 and 11 and 12 projects, and all of us here will be communicating with all of our active projects about what the process is going to be. Like I said, we're going to be as flexible as we possibly can with all the active projects. Any other questions about the process or the policy or anything?
bullets is that they will report in, recipients
Yes.
will report annually to LMF. And I'm assuming that it's only on expenditures of the fund. Is that correct? Or you said any expenditures, do you mean any expenditures on the property, or do you mean
Of the
any
fund.
expenditures on the property with the fund was set up with public monies?
With the fund, yes.
So I would just suggest, because I think when you roll the numbers, if we give 25 max and they put in 25, that's 50. If you can take 7%, it's only 3,500 that they can spend. I think it's reasonable to assume they may make other expenditures from other sources. So I think if we only are asking for the report to include expenditures of the fund that we're involved with,
Yeah.
I would suggest you put any fund expenditures, you just add that word, and then any planned fund expenditures in the year ahead, just to be clear.
Yeah.
We're not overreaching into everything else they're doing, but just staying with our fund.
Given the fungibility of money.
Well,
Where do you say that, well, this parts are always.
They have-
well, what is not fungible though is, so what they're going to have to do to implement this is they're going to have to set this up, at not a separate bank account, but a separate account in QuickBooks or whatever they're using. This is an account where this money and the match is held. And we are going to be asking them every year as part of their project agreement annual reporting to send us either a full statement or a couple of top line numbers from that. And if they move any money out of that account, that's their expenditure and it is not.
Okay, so I guess in my mind, I'd assume they would have a stewardship account
So that-
associated with a property, and all kinds of different monies would end up in it.
I think, no, so the best practice at the land trust level is to pool stewardship funds across all your properties. So that, you get a lot of money, you just need a big expense on one project one year and a different project another year, it all kind of comes out in the wash. And, this project specific stewardship endowment that we are required to have by statute is kind of a departure from that. And it's one of the reasons I don't know what the level of interest at the land trust level will be.
Expenditures for stewardship of that.
Of that fund, I think that's.
Yes.
It's a bit of an overreach to say any expenditures on that property.
And that was absolutely the intent and what the implementation was going to look like. Yes.
And I guess it's easy if they have to have it, at least in their QuickBook account somewhere.
And the principal has to be held. So these reports will help us determine how effective our stewardship.
So you have to know, you kind of have to know the bigger picture as well, like all the stewardship associated with
Well,
property.
we are not asking for that. So that, yeah, what to your point, Mac, it may be that, they've got their 50,000 that's in this fund. And that they are also taking money from their pooled stewardship account and spending it on this property. And we're not asking about that second part of it.
I think our goal is this a good use of public funds? Not are they doing a terrific job stewarding X property?
I read the second bullet, attachment H, a little differently. I read of it was that you could combine these funds with other funds. But you have to be able to account for
You get,
that
right.
independently.
So you can,
You need to report as if it's dedicated funding, because it is.
right.
But put it in a pot that has money from other places, and even money that's being used to steward other properties, as long as you can track it within that fund.
And it's the tracking piece that makes it, that I was speaking to. Yeah, yeah. So they could absolutely, for investment purposes, have one large account as long as they were all these sub accounts that allowed them to track the funds separately. Yes.
It's just like a client transfer.
Yes, we do. And this is another one. I could not make the motion short. I apologize. But this covers all the bases, I think.
I saw your hand getting.
I move to authorize the that's in CNR categories for rounds 10, 11, and 12, 4 projects in that those before the end to apply for stewardship funds. Authorize all active project as stewardship funds as part of their fund. Projects may request up to an amount of 5% of the $200,000 of the face value of the parcels receiving element funding, and 2% face value $200,000.
The other second by Commissioner Russo. Is there any question on the motion? Since it was just read into the record, I'm not going to read it. Is there any opposition? Is there any opposition to the motion? Being no opposition, passes. I want to give some credit to Bob Burns because raised this issue sometime. Late evening phone call with you. This issue as we so Steve Byron sticking with this particular stewardship issues.
And I think, Commissioner, that I'm going to really look at how this fund is playing out. And I was talking with here that one of my hopes was this inspirational organizations who weren't doing stewardship now, or for municipalities who weren't doing stewardship, and these monies and the match beginning of a for them. I think we have to be vigilant, make sure that this is being achieved and not just throwing $25,000 to organizations that already have stewardship programs, not serving that mental. So I look forward to these annual reports and chance to continue the.
I think that most important is closely to make sure that stewardship is so making this investment. So let's hope that it's in the. Okay, with that, to staff up.
My report, it is under review. When I get a final approved a draft, or I will share it all with you. You all know it's significantly streamlined with some serious help to reduce it to the statutory requirements. So the report itself is 5 pages, not the 535 pages you saw in the 5 pages, and then another 35 pages of the seats with that. The things you're used to seeing, the project numbers, those are all. You have to present it. I have to present it, legislative joke, even though if I have to present to legislative, Commissioner Beal, or just some. I think so.
I don't know. I suspect it would be.
Thank you. You all wanted a webinar on estuarine resilience before we haven't forgotten, and this is just to let you know we haven't forgotten. We set that up Biennial budget update. I get to say the piece I'm excited about.
Yeah.
I'm super excited about the fact that in the governor's budget, there was the provision to continue and make permanent a limited period position for our office specialist two and our senior planner position. I'm looking to go. So if these people want us, if this budget goes through all the way, we will have.
Say, not in the budget. And this is sunshine and roses with state budgets, based on all since COVID. That is all changing. Government forecasting is changing. It is. However, in talking to the governor's office, she is very, very. And she seriously at bonding. So we. Based on how this all plays out. More than cautiously, I'm that we will see a bond back.
And then the last one is much a question to you all, the quantitative scoring discussion. Should we think to have that here in the board, the next board meeting? Should we set something up separately?
I personally think this is worth a discussion. It's a little bit. Today. I keep thinking about how much we get into the weeds on scoring. And it's not the weeds that we're using to make the final determination, right? I mean, so I think really giving the skins back to scoring and process and taking this would be. I think we could still ask for a long in the narrative when we're but I think scoring CP is a great example. Leaning heavily on staff now to do preschool. So I think it's worth a discussion. It's agreement.
Thank you. We'll prepare we'll prepare for the quantitative scoring discussion and address thank you.
Great. That. Just today.
Sure.
Seconded and approved.
There's no word, but eat up. No?
Next time,